Hi everyone, and welcome back if you have decided to come back to my channel. I know with my last video I was talking about Gene Wilder and some horse manure, and that seemed to have put a few people off, so sorry about that. But anyway, I will persevere. I'm going to carry on talking about movies that I want to talk about. Hopefully some of you will be interested. Never mind if you're not. But yeah, in this video, I'm going to do another haul video. Of course, I carry on with my madness of still just finding movies when I go out and about. So I've picked up quite a few more. I will now show you what I got. First up, we've got The Big Bus. Who remembers this one? This was an airplane-style comedy, but to do with a nuclear-powered bus. Yeah, some quite good gags in this one, and a pretty good cast as well. Joseph Bologna, Ned Beatty, Stockard Channing, etc., etc. Yeah, quite good fun. Next, must admit I didn't like this one too much, but I've picked it up anyway. This is Volunteers with Tom Hanks and John Candy. And this also co-stars Rita Wilson, so I'm not 100% sure, but this may have been the movie where Tom and Rita met, and they're married to this day. Next, now I don't have high hopes for this, but for me, Michael Dudikoff, I remember going to the cinema back in the 80s to go and see American Ninja and then also Avenging Force. I really enjoyed both of those, although I must admit it was his co-star Steve James who was probably more cool than Michael Dudikoff. But anyway, it's been quite a while since I've seen a Dudikoff movie, so here we have Chain of Command. Next up, now I must admit, I used to really love this movie, and then it became difficult to watch because of Only Fools and Horses. Anyone that's seen that show will know what I mean, and it then makes this quite comical. But yeah, nonetheless, glad to pick this up. Another one I don't have too high hopes for, but this is a Sidney Poitier film in late career, and this is The Last Brickmaker in America. Next, I've got A Hidden Life, and this is directed by Terrence Malick. This is a 3-hour, quite ponderous and slow movie. Saw this one at the cinema, but yeah, it involves an Austrian peasant farmer who refuses to fight for the Nazis and is persecuted for that. So yeah, quite a difficult movie to watch, but very beautiful as well. Gorgeous cinematography in this, but yeah, it is slow. Next, haven't heard of this one before, but was interested by the cast, which includes a young Keeley Hawes here, as well as Maggie Smith and Michael Gambon and others. But yeah, this is set in Ireland in 1920, sort of during the Troubles, but it's a romance story. So yeah, The Last September. Next, we've got Dogtown and Z-Boys. Now, I was going to call it Zed, but Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. So yeah, this is a skateboarding documentary, and Lords of Dogtown was based on this. And sticking with sports, I've got this surfing documentary, Riding Giants. Next, a classic Sam Peckinpah western that I didn't have in my collection. This is Randolph Scott and Joel McRae in Ride the High Country. Next, Jack Nicholson, just your average horny little devil, along with Susan Sarandon, Cher and Michelle Pfeiffer in George Miller's The Witches of Eastwick, and a whole load of cherry pips. Now, I do have this on Laserdisc, but here we go anyway. This is Kevin Costner's massively over-budget Waterworld. And then here we've got Bloody Sunday, which is a dramatic account of the events that happened in January 1972 in Ireland, directed by Paul Greengrass and starring James Nesbitt. Now, I've just shown you a classic Western in Ride the High Country, but often when it comes to Westerns, we tend to overlook another really magnificent one. Yes, it's the Rumpo Kid and Marshall P. Nutt in Carry On Cowboy. Next, and from director Tom Holland, who also directed Fright Night, this is an adaptation of Stephen King's Thinner, starring Robert John Burke, who starred in RoboCop 3, and Joe Mantegna. Next, another one I have on Laserdisc, and yeah, I don't think I've actually watched this since the 80s, but this is Cocoon, directed by Ron Howard. Next, an Australian thriller with Brian Brown. I do like Brian Brown, and this is Risk. And next, some TV here, and this is the BBC adaptation of the original House of Cards, which later got made into an American version with Kevin Spacey, but this is the original with Ian Richardson, and this is the trilogy. So we get House of Cards, To Play the King, and The Final Cut. Next, a Blu-ray for my collection, and it's the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I do have a really nice Laserdisc box set of this, but yeah, nice to have on Blu-ray. And next we've got this one, Little Men, and this is directed by Ira Sachs. I don't really know the movie. It stars Greg Kinnear and Jennifer Eel. But Ira Sachs directed the recent Passages, which I must admit I wasn't over keen on for some of the content, but I did quite like the actual storytelling in that. And that was a film that starred Ben Whishaw, Frank Rosagowski and Adele Exarchopoulos. So that was an interesting movie, like I say, if not always for the content, but yeah, I'll be interested to see his other films. So I picked up Little Men, and I also picked up Married Life, so also directed by Ira Sachs, and great cast here. We've got Chris Cooper, Patricia Clarkson, Rachel McAdams, and Pierce Brosnan. And next here we've got The Grey Zone, and this is directed by the actor Tim Blake Nelson, and it's an adaptation of a true story about the only Jewish prisoners who tried to stage a revolt within Auschwitz. Meant to be quite a harrowing one, but yeah, interesting cast. Look forward to seeing it. And next from director Rian Johnson, who's perhaps best known nowadays for doing the Knives Out movies, and he also did Star Wars The Last Jedi and Looper. But yeah, this is The Brothers Bloom, starring Adrian Brody, Mark Ruffalo and Rachel Weisz. Great one this, directed by J.C. Chandor and starring Robert Redford. This is All Is Lost, and mostly wordless drama that involves Robert Redford as an experienced sailor who gets into difficult waters, and this becomes a tale of survival, but really using all his experience and wits to survive out in dangerous waters. Really, really captivating stuff. Great movie. Next, how dare the Americans remake Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, but they did it anyway. This is Jim McBride's entertaining Breathless from 1983 with Richard Gere and Valerie Kaprisky. Next, now I've never seen this before and I had no intention of seeing it really, but I just happened to listen to quite an interesting interview with Sharon Stone not too long ago. I picked up Basic Instinct 2, which has her starring alongside David Morrissey, and this one is directed by Michael Caton Jones, who also directed movies such as Scandal and Memphis Belle. And then finally, pretty good fun to find Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Or is it Part 1? I think they've taken that bit away now. But yeah, entertaining stuff. I enjoyed it at the cinema. I've enjoyed it since. I look forward to the next one. The only thing I will say, though, is that before this movie came out, they made such a big thing of that motorbike stunt, and you saw it so many times that by the time you actually got to see it in the movie, it kind of didn't seem as impressive as it should have done. And they did a similar thing just recently with the Fall Guy movie as well, with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. A world-breaking stunt there that included a car rolling over 8 times. But when you actually get to see it in the movie, the actual sequence is edited so heavily that you wouldn't notice that it was a world-breaking stunt, and it's just not exciting either. So the behind-the-scenes footage is actually more exciting than the film itself in those particular cases. But yeah, nonetheless, anyway, really pleased to have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And that is it. So those are the finds that I have. A bit of a mixed bag there. But yeah, let me know your comments on any of those movies, any thoughts that you have. Please do join me again for more videos. Hope to see you again. All the best to you. Bye-bye.